आज का जो हमारा टॉपिक ऑफ डिस्कशन रहेगा दैट इज़ लीगलाइजिंग सेम सेक्स मैरिज। अगर आप YouTube पे देखोगे तो आई थिंक आपको लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग दिख रही होंगी। लीगलाइजिंग सेम सेक्स मैरिज। So what is same sex marriage and what is legalizing them? Means we need to make a law to validate the marriage of same sexes. Now how the journey of this demand arise, what are the issues associated with it, what is stand of government of India, or what is Supreme Court has to say about it. So there are many issues regarding it to be discussed. For example, what is section 377 that decriminalizes in Navtej Singh Johar case, basically Supreme Court decriminalizes section 377. So what was section 377? Then what is the concept of marriage in our society? Then what is the stand of Supreme Court? And Supreme Court has issued a notice because Supreme Court has accepted a petition regarding the legalization of same sex marriage, that is Supriya Chakravarti versus Union of India. So now the moment when petition has been accepted by the Supreme Court issued a notice to the government of India that what is your stand regarding the same sex marriage, and in response to it, Supreme Court in response to this notice, basically the government has showed many apprehensions that same sex marriage or legalizing same sex marriage can basically create a havoc in our society, or basically it can disturb a delicate balance between the personal laws and between the societal values. So you know that our Supreme Court of India is known for it's basically a very transformative, evolutionary and an interpretative judiciary. It is one of the most transformative judiciary you can say in entire world. So first we will discuss about section 377 and Navtej Singh Johar case. Now basically what happened that before this case or before this judgment, basically if two person or if two people of same sex are cohabitating, it will be considered a criminal act. So in Navtej Singh Johar case, basically the Supreme Court of India has decriminalized the section 377 that now two person of same sex can cohabitate, or they can in a private, they can live in a kind of relationship. Means they can not a formal relationship was there, but now section 377 was being deleted. Now that it is not a criminal act if two homosexual are cohabitating with each other. So Navtej Singh Johar case is a very important. Now this case in itself says that how reformative or a transformative the Supreme Court of India is. Then obviously if section 377 has been decriminalized or it has been deleted, now we can definitely accept कि अगर आपने दो होमोसेक्सुअल्स को एक साथ रहने के लिए एक तरह से आपने उसको क्रिमिनल एक्ट नहीं माना है, तो व्हाट विल बी द नेक्स्ट स्टेप? डेफिनेटली द मैरिज प्रोबेबली और making this institution or making the two people, if they are cohabitating together, we must make some kind of stable relationship with them. And we all know that if two a man or a woman, if they are cohabitating with each other in our society, the acceptance institution will be marriage. So in Supriya Chakravarti case, a petition has been filed that if a law is not being made regarding legalizing the same sex marriage, it will be a violation of fundamental rights against under Article 14, under Article 19, under Article 21 and right to privacy. So Supreme Court basically accepted the petition. Fine. That was Supriya Chakravarti versus Union of India. Fine. And then Supreme Court issued a notice कि what is your stand regarding the legalizing the same sex marriage. Now what finally it happened, and now the ball was being basically put into the court of your government of India. Now, what is the government of India has to say regarding all this issue? Government of India first pointed out that this can actually, if we legalize a same-sex marriage, it will create a havoc between the delicate balance of personal laws and societal values. We have our personal laws. Judiciary always and always try to keep the individual rights ahead or above the communitarian rights, right? But government, what is parliament? Parliament represent the will of the people, probably the majority of the people, and parliament will make the laws when society at a large will create or probably there will be a demand from the society that this particular law has to be made, and then parliament is bound to make the law. So government of India first say that this should not be done, and we will not make a law regarding will not make the law, because somewhere or the other it will disturb the social fabric of our society. What second thing government of India said that, जैसा कि petition में कहा था कि fundamental rights 14, 19, 21 and right to privacy का हनन किया जा रहा है, and we all know that Supreme Court is the custodian and the guardian of our constitution and of our fundamental rights. So Supreme Court ने ये बात कही कि it is a very fact कि आप आर्टिकल इस अगर आप लीगल सेम सेक्स मैरिज को नहीं लीगलाइज कर रहे हो तो डेफिनेटली आर्टिकल 14 that is right to equality and equal protection of rights. Then article 15 says that the state cannot discriminate on the basis of caste, sex, gender, place of birth. So on the basis, if you are discriminating the two section of society on the basis of sex, it is against a fundamental right. Then article 19 says that you have the right to form associations, and article 21 that is right to live with dignity, and finally the right to privacy. In Puttaswamy judgment says that a person has the privacy rights, right? So now what government of India said in it? First, in article 14 में government of India says that article 14 says that reasonable restrictions under article 14 has one thing, that reasonable restrictions ठीक है, intelligible differentia, ये दो चीज़ों को आर्टिकल 14 कहता है कि अगर किसी पर्टिकुलर ऑब्जेक्टिव, एक लार्जर ऑब्जेक्टिव को अगर हमें रखना है या लार्जर ऑब्जेक्ट अगर हमें अटेन करना है सोसाइटी में, तो विद रीजनेबल रेस्ट्रिक्शंस आर्टिकल 14 पे हम एक्सेप्शंस ला सकते हैं. अगर मैंने आर्टिकल जब आपको फंडामेंटल राइट्स पढ़ाए थे आर्टिकल 14 में, आई सेड कि देयर आर सम एक्सेप्शंस टू आर्टिकल 14 रिगार्डिंग प्रेसिडेंट, गवर्नमेंट, मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट्स एटसेट्रा एंड एटसेट्रा. So reasonable restrictions on article 14 can be put if a larger objective of the society has to be gained. Larger objective in pace with the societal values has to be kept. So reasonable restrictions with intelligible differentia can be made. Then government of India said कि article 19 आपको देता है right to form associations, right? Definitely आप किसी भी तरह का एसोसिएशन बनाओ, बट राइट टू फॉर्म एसोसिएशन, हर उस एसोसिएशन को लीगल रिकॉग्निशन गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया दे या पार्लियामेंट दे, इट इज़ नॉट रिक्वायर्ड, इट इज़ नॉट नेसेसरी. सो राइट टू फॉर्म एसोसिएशन इज योर फंडामेंटल राइट, बट इफ द लीगल रिकॉग्निशन ऑफ every association has to be given, that is not required, that is not important. Then third says that article 21 says that every individual has the right to live with dignity. Now tell me, government of India says that if we will not legalize same sex marriage, तो ऐसा grey situation तो नहीं हो रहा है that you cannot live with dignity, right? So government of India says कि if legalizing something does not mean that we are snatching your powers, we are snatching your rights, or you cannot live with dignity. Government of India has this point in respect to Article 21. Now the very important thing which Government of India in right now, it is right to privacy. What is right to privacy is, right to privacy was in Puttaswamy judgment. Now Puttaswamy judgment. In Puttaswamy judgment, Government of India says that right to privacy is a fundamental right. It is very true. If two people, we know that if two people are cohabitating, or if let's say if two adults, what they are doing in their personal capacity is their private affair. It is very true. Marriage is somewhere or the other is a matter of private affair. So if two people, what they are doing in their personal capacity or in their private sphere is definitely a matter of privacy. But if we'll see marriage as a whole or in a larger aspect, it is not a private affair, it is a social affair. So it is a very important institution of our society, because marriage is not only restricted with cohabitation. हेवी मैरिज का एक ही एस्पेक्ट नहीं है कि दो लोग मिलके कोहैबिटेट करें. नो, इट इज रिलेटेड टू मेनी डिफरेंट aspects regarding what will the question of divorce, the question of adoption, the question of inheritance. The two families are related in the institution of marriage. So right to privacy is important, a fundamental right, but definitely only having the marriage is not just a private affair. It is very much important and very much related to the societal values also. So right to privacy को भी इसमें consider किया. तो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने ये बातें कही कि राइट ना, अगर हम सेम सेक्स मैरिज को लीगलाइज नहीं कर रहे हैं तो ना तो ये आर्टिकल 14 का वायलेशन है, ना ये आर्टिकल 19 का वायलेशन है, ना ही आर्टिकल 21 का वायलेशन है, और ना ही राइट टू प्रिवेसी का वायलेशन है. दूसरी बात गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने कहा कि देर आर मैनी पर्सनल लॉज. वी नो, फॉर एग्जाम्पल पर्सनल लॉज लाइक मुस्लिम लॉ है हमारा, हिंदू लॉज हैं, क्रिश्चियन लॉज हैं. ऑल द लॉज, every law, they basically does not accept the same sex marriage, and the moment these personal laws never accept the sex marriage, so we cannot basically break this fabric or the delicate balance between the personal laws and the accepted societal values. And एक important इसका एक और जो एक important argument है कि same sex marriage को legalize नहीं करना चाहिए, वो ये कि पार्लियामेंट कब लॉ बनाती है? When there is a demand from the within the society कि yes, there is a need of this particular reform. This reform has to be done in our society. Like let's say for example many cases like sati ले लें, sati prohibition act है, stopping of child marriage act है, then domestic violence act है, then we have this dowry prohibitions act है. In all these acts you will see one thing which is common, that there was a demand from the society, because they were considered as a major roadblock in the development of our society. So within the society the demand came कि now these law has to be made, otherwise the proper development of our society can be at a stake, and they are very important major roadblocks in our society. So because of this reason basically the parliament made the law, because there was a demand from the society. Now we can say that कि there is not that particular demand from our society कि same sex marriage को legalize करो. तो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने ये भी एक पॉइंट कहा कि that is why same sex marriage should not be legalized. ठीक है. And एक important aspect है, see Supreme Court is a interpretative in nature, right? But Supreme Court does not makes the law. It can only interpret the law, it can only guide the parliament, but ultimately who has the authority to make laws? That is the legislature, that is the parliament. And the moment if Supreme Court makes some laws, it will definitely going to break the fabrics of democracy. So what does it mean? That Supreme Court can interpret the laws, but Supreme Court cannot finally cannot make the legislations. It is the duty of the पार्लियामेंट. सो दीज बेसिस में हमें गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया का पॉइंट पता चला, दैट इज़ कि गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया किसी भी तरह से सेम सेक्स मैरिज को लीगलाइज करने के तो मूड में नहीं है. So what are the important points I said? कि it is not the violations of article 14, 19, 21 and right to privacy. Second thing, सुप्रीम कोर्ट का काम सिर्फ इंटरप्रेट करना है लॉज को. पार्लियामेंट, क्योंकि पार्लियामेंट मेजॉरिटी विल को दर्शाती है, क्योंकि वी हैव इलेक्टेड देम एंड नाउ दे रिप्रेजेंट आवर इंडियन सोसाइटी. मेजॉरिटी, दे रिप्रेजेंट द मेजॉरिटी विल. सो इट इज़ अ ड्यूटी ऑफ द पार्लियामेंट एंड it is the parliament who has a final authority to make the laws. Now the question of many personal laws, for example the muslim personal law है, then for example हमारे हिंदू law है, Christian law है. No law basically they accept the same sex marriage. And very important thing, what is the definition of marriage? अगर हम मैरिज की बात करें, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने ये भी कहा कि मैरिज बेसिकली क्या है. इट इज़ अ यूनियन between biological male and a female, a biological female, ठीक है, and a child born out of this union is a legitimate child. ठीक है. सो बेसिकली गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने कहा है कि मैरिज इज बेसिकली अ यूनियन बिटवीन अ बायोलॉजिकल मेल and a biological female, and the child born out of this union will be considered as a legitimate child to that legitimate child of that couple. So marriage की definition ही यही है कि biological male है और biological female है. तो how can we can actually legalize the same sex marriage. ठीक है. Now these are the issues associated with. So what are the issues associated with legalizing same sex marriage? First, personal laws. Personal laws does not recognize same sex marriage. ठीक है. Second important point about the other aspects. About the other aspects में क्या important चीज़ है? What will happen? What will about divorce? तो divorce किस लॉ के अंडर होंगे उनके? सेम सेक्स मैरिज अगर होती है तो कौन से लॉज के अंडर फिर उनके डिवोर्स होंगे? अबाउट एडॉप्शन, ठीक है, अबाउट सेरोगेसी, मेंटेनेंस एंड प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स, मेंटेनेंस राइट्स, ठीक है, देन प्रॉपर इनहेरिटेंस राइट्स. So it is just not legalizing same sex marriage will be suffice. We have to see these also issues. What will then we have to see then on what legal grounds they will going to separate it or they will be going to divorce. What will happen to adoption? We know that under CARA or the Central Adoption Resource Authority, there is nothing like homosexual couples can adopt a child. What will be about their inheritance rights? What will be about their maintenance rights? ठीक है. And third, the most important thing is social acceptance. Is India is sufficient mature enough to socially accept this new institution? Marriage is a sacred institution. It's a holy union between a man and a woman. So do you consider that if you will you will make the laws regarding this, so will our society going to accept it? Right. So social acceptance. And then definition of marriage. Definition of marriage. So these are the issues associated with regarding the same sex marriage, कि why it should not be legalized. Now other thing, कि why same sex marriage should be legalized, because we have to see the others. Yes, we have to see the other side of the coin also. We cannot only say कि ठीक है, अगर आप ये changes लाने पड़ेंगे, ये laws लाने पड़ेंगे, या this and that everything. So don't you think so that we have to look for the other side of the coin also? Yes. Why we should legalize same marriage? Why? Why? Yes. Now see, tell me one thing. Is our Indian constitution only reflects the majority और द विल ऑफ मेजॉरिटी? ये बात बिल्कुल ठीक है कि आपने कह दिया कि हमारा पार्लियामेंट के वो लोग इंडियन सोसाइटी को मतलब हम इलेक्ट करते हैं एंड दे रिप्रेजेंट द larger interest of the people or the larger group of the people. But then what about the rights of minorities? So is our constitution only has to deal with the rights of majority? So what will happen to the rights of minorities? We are considering the scheduled caste, we have given the rights to the scheduled tribes. Then why not the homosexual society? We have so much homophobia, we are discriminating between them so much. Then who will consider? If our constitution will not give them right, if our government will not take care of them, then who will actually take care of them? So our constitution is not only limited to the rights of majority only. Then there is a very important point of discussion is that our parliament generally does not offer the purposeful deliberations regarding them. अगर आपको कितनी बार पार्लियामेंट में होमोसेक्सुअल सोसाइटीज़ को लेके या LGBTQ कम्युनिटीज़ को लेके कितनी बार डिस्कशन हुआ होगा? हार्डली नो. बेसिकली होमोसेक्सुअल आर कंसिडर्ड एज सब ह्यूमन्स एंड हमारी सोसाइटी में भी आज भी इतना होमोफोबिक एटीट्यूड है, इतना डिस्क्रिमिनेटरी एटीट्यूड है इनको लेके. एंड इवन पार्लियामेंट always have a skeptical attitude in discussing them, in having a deliberative attitude regarding them. So we never try to consider them as good to be discussed in our majority, in our parliaments. So why? Yes, because constitution only does not preserve the rights of majority. ठीक है. Second thing, happiness is more important than social acceptance. This is actually a very valid point. Now ठीक है, आपने मैरिज तो कह दिया कि it is basically a union between a man and women, but you will see in our society, you will see that even now people are, do you consider that every marriage is a happy marriage? Or if a man or a woman, they are living together, do you think so they are happy? It is not always the same case, right? So agar do homosexual, if they are living together and if they are happy in their own lives, so why we should not socially accept them? Socially तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें which are not accepted, but we have to reform with time, we have to evolve with time, and happiness is definitely more important with social acceptance. So why we should not consider homosexual marriage? Why should not we are not legalizing this same sex marriage? So these are the importance of rights, and definitely important deliberations, or for example many a times discussions do not occur in parliament regarding the intellectual topics पे very less discussions do occur. So a proper deliberations and discussions till date have not been happened in parliament on this particular topic. Now the third important topic, कई लोग कह रहे हैं कि the society is not yet mature enough to accept this emerging or evolving institution. It's very true. Our society is not that fully mature, but is it that we can wait so long for to get our maturity, to get our society that mature enough? कितना time? 2 साल, 3 साल, 5 साल, 10 साल, इतने time तक what will happen to these what will happen to the rights of these community? So time can never decide the maturity scale of a people of that particular society, right? And this is basically why yes, we should legalize same sex marriage, because it is the demand. और definitely अगर आपने section 377 को decriminalize कर ही दिया है, तो if two people are living happily together, then we must provide them some sort of stability or some sort of institution, so they can together they can cohabitate in that particular institution and they can happily live ever after. So that is why we must legalize the same sex marriage. So this is all about I have discussed ki what is same sex marriage, what is Navteej Singh Johar case, and what is the basically the stand of the government of India, and what are the issues associated with same sex marriage, and these are the important questions. इसके अलावा कुछ एक दो फैक्ट्स हैं जो सेक्शन जो ये पेटिशन सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने एक्सेप्ट की है, वो अंडर आर्टिकल 142 एक्सेप्ट की है. नाउ व्हाट आर्टिकल 142 सेज दैट 142 says that Supreme Court in exercise of jurisdiction can hear any case but in subject to the laws passed by the legislature. एक ये important point भी है कि definitely Supreme Court in order to do the ultimate to do the final justice can interpret or can basically exercise in its jurisdiction, but this is there is one important condition also, that should be in subject to the laws passed by the legislature. So if any law has been made by the parliament, the Supreme Court can interpret them, can finally say that whether it is inconsistent with the Constitution of India, whether this should be made null and void. So Supreme Court has the authority to interpret the constitution, but ultimately who has the final authority to make the laws? That is the parliament. देखिए, और एक constitutional bench, what is constitutional bench? Sorry, under article 145 clause 3, any case involving a substantial question of law as to interpretation of the constitution must be decided by a bench of at least 5 judges. So this is constitutional bench. अब now आता है way forward. Although जो भी डिसीजन सुप्रीम कोर्ट का आएगा, ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट का, वी मस्ट एक्सेप्ट इट एंड वी मस्ट रिस्पेक्ट इट, बिकॉज अल्टीमेट हु इज़ द कस्टोडियन एंड हु इज़ द गार्डियन ऑफ अ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन? इट इज़ द सुप्रीम कोर्ट. सो जो भी सुप्रीम कोर्ट कहेगा वी मस्ट एक्सेप्ट एंड वी मस्ट रिस्पेक्ट इट. बट हम भी एक तरह से वे फॉरवर्ड क्या हो सकता है इस पूरे जो ये हमारा पूरा एक हिस्ट्री है, क्योंकि अगर जो भी जजमेंट आएगा दैट विल क्रिएट अ हिस्ट्री इन इटसेल्फ, राइट? आज तक बहुत ही इंडिया में इट विल क्रिएट अ लैंडमार्क जजमेंट जो भी रहेगा. सो बहुत ही डिबेट्स में आता है व्हाट कुड बी द वे फॉरवर्ड अपार्ट फ्रॉम सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जजमेंट के अलावा, एक तरह से क्या वे फॉरवर्ड हो सकता है. पहला, डेलिब्रेशंस. अभी भी यहाँ पे इस टॉपिक पे काफ़ी ज़्यादा बात होनी है सोसाइटी में. अभी भी हमारी सोसाइटी बहुत ही स्केप्टिकल, एक होमोफोबिक और डिस्क्रिमिनेटरी एटीट्यूड रखती है विद दीज पीपल. सो वी नीड टू डेलिब्रेशन, सेंसिटाइजेशन, ठीक है, सेंसिटाइजेशन ऑफ द सोसाइटी. फिर मास अवेयरनेस, mass awareness, media can play a very important role in it. ठीक है, programs, different programs. Stop homophobic attitude, stop homophobic attitude. So basically in सब से what will happen, they will create a social demand. डेलिबरेशन से, सेंसिटाइजेशन से, मास अवेयरनेस से, मीडिया कैन प्ले अ इम्पॉर्टेंट रोल. They all can actually create a social demand, and the moment when a social demand happens, the moment when there is a demand within the society, I'll rub it, fine, so they will create a social demand. When there will be a social demand from the society, the parliament is bound, parliament is bound to make laws. तो इससे क्या होगा, आप इससे क्या होगा, एक तरह से कोलैबोरेशन और एक तरह से लीगली एज वेल एज सोशली आप उस चीज़ को जब एक्सेप्टेंस दोगे तो उसके आउटपुट्स, फेवरेबल आउटपुट्स आपको देखने को मिलेंगे सोसाइटी में. देखो एक इशू था, लाइक जल्लीकट्टू इशू था, फॉर एग्जांपल सबरीमाला इशू था. सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जल्लीकट्टू इशू में भी जो जजमेंट दिया या सबरीमाला इशू में जो भी जजमेंट दिया, उसमें आपने एक चीज़ देखी होगी, दैट इज़ अ लैक ऑफ सोशल एक्सेप्टेंस. पीपल डिड नॉट रिकग्नाइज इट, एंड देन इन जल्लीकट्टू इशू द स्टेट वॉज बाउंड टू मेक द लॉ. ठीक है, एंड इन सबरीमाला इशू ऑल्सो पीपल डिडंट एक्सेप्ट दैट द रिफॉर्मेटिव एटीट्यूड ऑफ सुप्रीम कोर्ट. So what actually should happen, that social demand must be created, and that demand when this demand will be created, parliament will then bound to make the laws, and then there will be legal acceptance also, and then there will be social acceptance also, and then the most favorable output of that particular thing will going to come in our society. Now we will see what is the future course, because we cannot predict the future, because we have to look both on the pros and both on the con side. There are issues associated with legalizing the same sex marriage. On the same side, we have to see the rights, we have to see the rights, and we have to see we have to look to the minority people also, to these people also. We have to stop the homophobic attitude towards them. So ultimately what can be the possible way forward, we have to look to the Supreme Court judgment. अभी hearings are judgment चल ही रही हैं, court hearings आप देख सकते हैं इनको, live hearings. तो जो है coming in near future इसका judgment आएगा ही. But as for now, on my what I think is that we must create sensitization, एक तरह का mass awareness create करना चाहिए. There are rooms of deliberation, there should be more rooms of deliberations and discussions. Then finally when this homophobic attitude will be destroyed, then there will be social demand from the society will be created, and once the social demand will be created, parliament will be bound to make the laws. This is all regarding the same sex marriage, like what was section 377, Navtej Singh Johar case kya tha, then what is the concept of marriage in our Indian society, what is what was the petition mein kaha gaya tha ki same sex marriage basically it violates the article 14, 19, 21 and right to privacy. What is the government view, what are the issues or what are the constraints regarding legalizing the same sex marriage, and why we must legalize the same sex marriage, and then what a possible way forward must be. And I think please do keep a record on this judgment, because this will be a very important judgment, and it will create basically it will change the entire course, and it will create a history, and it will be a landmark judgment by the Supreme Court of India. And whatever the judgment will be there, we must respect it, we must accept it, because the Supreme Court is the ultimate custodian, guardian and everything to our constitution. So thank you so much. I hope you have basically learnt a lot from this video. Thanks a lot.